Hi guys, long time no see. Hello, it is I, Darkovika. I do in fact exist. I wanted to let you guys know that everything is great. I'm fine. My birth, I gave birth on August 30th. And I wanted to share with you guys how that went and how that's going. This video might get interrupted because I have a baby literally 2 feet from me who is passed out, but also hungry, but mostly just tired. He can't decide which one he's feeling. So, fair warning. A, I don't have this scripted, so this is going to be all over the place. B, I am going to go a little in depth with this because I feel like a lot of things get glossed over simply because people think they're gross or it's very intimate, and labor is very, very intimate, but not in a fun way. But I wanted to share a lot of it with you guys, and I wanted to kind of just be very upfront about what pregnancy and labor was like for me. So if you're not wanting to know that, now's a good time to leave. I mean, I'm gonna go in on this. I'm as far as I am comfortable to go, which is I'm gonna go pretty far. So let's talk about the day that I gave labor. Gave birth. On August 29th, I went into the hospital to get induced because August 30th was my 41st week being pregnant. And we had set an inducement date because I personally, I believed 41 weeks was way too far, and I did not want to go past 41 weeks because at that point, your body stops kind of making the things that your baby needs in order to stay healthy. And your OBGYN will schedule you to come in for checkups twice a week if you decide to continue with a natural birth. Now, the downsides to it being induced are that a lot of the times people say that the pain is a lot worse when you're induced. I can't compare, but I can say that it hurt like nobody's business, and I will get to that. But yeah, so on August 29th, first things first, we went to a Mexican restaurant and we had a lovely dinner, me, my husband, and my parents, which I guess these are the pros, is that the whole thing is planned, so literally nothing takes you by surprise. So we went out, we had a dinner, which was what my OBGYN suggested. I eat before I get induced, and then after that, you don't eat anything except popsicles. And they were some dang good popsicles, but again, I'll get to that. So I get to the hospital, I'm kind of freaking out because, wow, this is happening and I'm scared. Labor and giving birth is a scary thing. And I, so I went in and they got me set up in the room. And then what they do is I'm going to get all these names wrong. I don't even remember what the name of the two pills are, but there are these two pills that they give you when they're inducing you. And they insert them in your lady bits. That's very uncomfortable. It hurt a lot. Um, Absolutely none of this was glamorous. None of this is attractive. None of this is great. Um, but yeah, so they insert one, and then 6 hours later, I think they were going to insert a second one. And what that does is it starts your contractions. And so the plan was to keep me overnight, have me go into labor, stay overnight, and then the next day I would likely give birth. Likely because some people can stay in inactive labor for several days. Thankfully, I'm not one of those people. I was in inactive labor, meaning I had contractions, but I wasn't like pushing, I wasn't in labor. I was in inactive labor for about 23 hours or so. Now, on that first day at night, I decided to get an epidural. Now, this is a big thing because throughout my entire pregnancy, I had been terrified of getting an epidural because I have scoliosis. So my spine does this. It not bad enough that it's terribly noticeable, but it does affect certain things that I do. My back actually goes inwards. If you were to look at me standing, I do not have a straight back. It goes in, and then it also curves slightly to one side, so it's not where it's supposed to be. So an epidural is where they take I I'm not 100% sure how to explain this. I'm not a doctor, but they take something and they thread it through your spine. And what happens is they will then inject the numbing agent of the epidural into your spine. And that is the scariest thing on the planet. Anything going near my spine is just, I don't want it. So, my whole pregnancy, I was pretty convinced that I wasn't going to do an epidural. And the day of, my contractions hit, and oh my God, they hurt so bad. And this was inactive labor, which was really scary because these are not the contractions. Like these are the I'm starting to warm up to giving birth contractions. So so at some point I was like, you know what? I can already tell this is gonna suck. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get an epidural. So they bring in an anesthesiologist. She was a lovely lady, but she could not thread it into my spine. I sat there going through contractions every 10 to 15 minutes, not moving a muscle. So, hunched over holding a pillow, which is what they have you do. And then you're supposed to basically hunch over as far as possible so that your spine pops out in your back, especially if you have scoliosis, so that they could see where your spine is. She had me sit like that for about 20 minutes or so. And actually, I'm being generous to myself. My contractions were about like 7 minutes apart from the beginning. Um, and so I sat there for 20 to 30 minutes while she attempted over and over and over to thread it into my spine. And she kept hitting every single nerve on the way in there to the point where I could feel shooting pain up and down my spine, which is really, 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 really scary. So finally, I was like, I'm doing it raw. No, I'm good. I don't want this. I don't even care. I don't care how much this hurts. I do not want anything else going in my spine. So they left, but one of the nurses explained that sometimes it really is just an anesthesiologist thing, and if I could hang on through the night, wait for a shift change in the morning, and ask another anesthesiologist to try. I was convinced at this point to go without an epidural. I changed my mind the next morning. So I went the whole night with no epidural and my contractions getting steadily angrier. They never gave me the second pill the second pill to increase my contractions because I dilated so quickly after the first pill. So it's two pills, especially if you're dilating really slowly. I went from like 1 centimeter dilated, which is basically, I believe, how your cervix starts to open up to prepare for a baby coming through. I went from 1 centimeter dilated to like 6 centimeters dilated, like that. And so they did not want me to get to 10 centimeters because that's when you start pushing, whether you want to or not. And your body will go into auto mode if you don't start pushing. It will start pushing for you, which is what they wanted to avoid. So they did not give me the second pill to try to get me to last through the night. Sometime during the night, oh no, they didn't start me on Pitocin yet, which is the second thing that they give you. And Pitocin will really kick in labor and pretty much get you to 10 centimeters. So I think they gave that to me in the morning. They had me hooked up with an IV to a saline drip, which makes you shiver because it is this freezing cold liquid that goes into your veins. And even though outwardly you are not cold because labor makes you extremely hot, I was in a hospital room with the AC going full blast. My husband and my mother were there, and they were freezing solid. They were frozen solid. And I was like with the covers off, even with the saline drip going through me, and I was like shivering and my teeth were chattering. I wasn't actually cold. It was just the saline drip going through me. It was making me feel very cold. So, um, after that, so I went the whole night and I could only sleep so in between my contractions, because every time a contraction would hit, I would wake up and it would hurt like nobody's business, but I didn't have any painkillers whatsoever. And there are other painkiller options, but the problem is that there are very few and they wear off, and the more you take them, the less effective they are. So I kept thinking, no, it's not bad enough for me to take them yet. And then all of a sudden it was 7 o'clock in the morning, the shift change happened, and I requested the new anesthesiologist. He came in, and at this point I did not care whose gender was who came in. I was like, make the pain go away. I don't care what you see. Um, I bent over, he found my spine. From the moment he walked in that room and was like opening packages to the moment that he left, it was 8 minutes solid, and 8 minutes flat, and he got the epidural in me. And then I had the happiest 4 hours of my life. I slept through 4 hours of bliss, some slight cold in my back, this little green box that sounds and looks and is called a cassette that is what injects the epidural stuff into you, and I felt nothing. And then actual labor started. And actual labor said epidurals are for pussies. And I felt everything. So when they started me on the Pitocin, I don't remember how long it was between the Pitocin and when active labor started. But when active labor started, those contractions were different. They were mean and angry, and they hurt like a son of a biscuit. Okay? They and that is the most excruciating. There are no words to explain what I felt. And active labor was 3 hours long. So I pushed for 3 hours and I discovered something. When you push, your contractions are not as bad. They still hurt like nobody's. It honestly felt like I had nothing, except for one problem. The epidural made me completely numb from the waist down. So I could not feel my lady bits. I couldn't feel my butt. I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel anything, which is kind of a problem. And I'll get to that. So I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't feel anything from the waist down, but I could feel my contractions, of course. And so every time my contractions would start, they would tell me to push and they would hold my legs and I would start to push. And if you push, it kind of pushes back against the contractions and they're bearable. Now, so during all of this, they have you hooked up to a monitor. From the moment that I walked into the hospital to the moment that I left it, to the moment that I gave birth, they had me hooked up to two monitors. One that measured my stats and then one that measured his heartbeat, my baby's. And so we could hear his heartbeat literally the entire time. And it's just to make sure that he's okay through the entire process so that he doesn't respond poorly to the epidural. He doesn't respond poorly to any of the medication that they're giving me, the saline drip, nothing. So they watch his heartbeat to make sure that he's steady. And he was an absolute gem the entire time. So I start pushing and they're, I pushed for 3 hours. I said that already. It was misery. I was sobbing. At one point, I wanted to throw up. And I don't know if you understand this, but when your body is preparing to throw up, your mouth fills with saliva. I know that's gross, but hey, this is a gross video. And I was so upset. I refused. I was like, I will not throw up. On top of everything that is happening to me right now, I refuse to throw up. Brent stood next to me for the entire 3 hours, squeezing my shoulder, rubbing my shoulder, cheering me on, just honestly being just a true gem of a husband. And I was gonna throw up, and I had this tiny little hand fan in my backpack. It was a USB chargeable hand fan. And I was like, Brian, get the hand fan. And he runs over to my backpack and he gets this little hand fan and he has it pointed at my face. And it was the only thing that stopped me from throwing up because, oh my God, I was literally, and you're lying down. And I was actually scared of throwing up because I'm lying down, basically. And I was terrified to throw up because how do you not get it all over you? First of all, gross. And second of all, how am I going to drown in it? I'm not throwing up. So I just refused. I was like, I did not throw up this whole pregnancy and I'm not going to start now. So that was awful. And then I was so hot through the entire birth process. And my poor mother, her only birth that she ever had, which was for my brother, was I'm adopted, by the way. That's a story for a different video. But she had a C-section. So she said that this was an extremely traumatic experience watching me give birth. She was like, I was so scared watching you. And then, so I went the entire time during this birthing process. It hurt like a son of a gun. Oh, and then at one point they were checking me. So they didn't have me push and a contraction hit. And that is one of two times I think that I screamed because it hurt so bad. I literally have never experienced pain on this level. It was the most excruciating feeling of my entire life. And I couldn't push because I didn't have anything supporting my legs and they didn't want me to push. So I sat there. Now, the other worst part was that my contractions were a solid 5 to 7 minutes apart through this entire process, which is unusual. They're usually 2 minutes apart. I got to a point where I would pass out literally in between each contraction, each push. I would pass out. I was so exhausted and I was in so much pain. It was just me crying, passing out, crying, passing out. It was the worst. And then I could feel him coming out, but like every time I was like, how much further out is he? So they would say, you're so close, you're almost there, you're so close, you're almost there. And I'd be like, how much further did he come out? And there'd be a moment of silence and they'd go, well, every millisecond counts or every millimeter counts. And I was like, by the third hour, they were like, you're almost there. And I was like, you've been saying that for 3 hours. And I felt every minute of those 3 hours. It was the most like, there are no words to explain this. And I will say, when I finally gave birth, so it scared the bejesus out of me. Okay, hang on. Let me roll back a little bit because I'm missing a huge moment. So I didn't know this. When this particular part happened, it was in the third hour. I was exhausted. I was like primal at this point. Like I was not thinking logically. All I could think about was the pain. All I could think about was how badly I wanted to go to sleep. I could not process really what was happening around me. By this point my doctor was there. So your OBGYN, your doctor does not really come in until you're literally about to give birth or there are complications, which is partly why she comes in. So in the third towards the end of the third hour is when my doctor finally came in. Bless her. I love her. Wonderful, amazing woman. Overall I had a very good experience at the hospital. Like obviously labor sucked, but that's not the hospital's fault. Um so I'm like passing out literally and I'm like noticing that they're sticking me with a whole bunch of stuff all over my body and I'm just like this is par for the course, like whatever, okay. But my husband later told me that they were looking scared and the reason was because they couldn't actually hear his heartbeat anymore. So he was no longer showing up on the monitor with a heartbeat and it could they there was no obviously no one was talking about this because if I stress out I will not be able to get the baby out. My body will go into a mode where it will stop pushing, which is definitely dangerous for the baby because the baby was already almost out. So Brent said he was watching them and they all start panicking and they were sticking me what they were sticking me with was more things to try to find the baby and they couldn't. And he said the one time they almost found the baby but the monitor was broken, so the sound that was coming out was this weird high pitched chirp and it was very uneven, which also is very scary if that's the heartbeat because it wasn't a good heartbeat. So what they finally did, and I briefly saw this tool, it was this super long rod. They finally pull this rod out and I remember briefly looking at it, but I still didn't know what was going on. They were just having me push still. So they were just like, you're doing great, keep pushing. But Brent said they looked terrified. So they take this rod. The baby's head is showing. So they could see the baby's head. So they stuck the rod in his head and his heartbeat came out and it was totally fine. He was fine. And throughout this 3 hours, his heartbeat never changed. He was not stressed. He was not freaking out. He was totally fine. Absolute champ. Which is important because if they start freaking out during labor, that's when they will switch and say they need to do a C-section, basically. So that was never necessary. I was able to completely give birth to him vaginally, um, which was exhausting. And so they found him and everything was fine. And of course I have no idea that this is happening, but everyone's relieved. There's like 10 people in the room now. My mom's on the couch terrified because she can see all this too. And Brent is next to me watching everything. He was very interested in the whole process. So he was like a part of the whole thing. He was watching me push, watching the baby come out. He was not squeamish, which I think is amazing and I love him to pieces because I don't know what I would have done if he had to leave. Like that would have been crushing to be alone. I was so scared the whole time. And then I hear I hear my doctor say, "There he is." And then this I don't know how to explain this. It is the most bizarre, most painful, most I don't there isn't a word for it feeling that I've ever had. And she basically grabbed the baby's head and pulled him out and it felt like someone suctioned out all of my insides. It I That was the second time I screamed and I full like back arched like back arched, screamed at the top of my lungs because it shocked me. I wasn't expecting it. That push was no different than any other push, which by the way, I could not feel any of my pushes because of that epidural. It made life worse. I swear to God. It they would be like, push like that again. And I would be like, push like what? I don't know what I did. They would be like, push like you're going to the bathroom. I can't feel my bits. I don't know how I'm pushing. Am I pushing? Good question. I can feel a slight pressure down there. That's it. So, like, literally, they would be like, push like that again. And I was just like, could you tell me what I did? Because I don't know what I did. It was the worst. It was absolutely 100% why labor took so long, active labor. And then they didn't even really have to do anything for him. He just cried immediately. Riley, which is my son's name. Riley cried immediately. He just came out the womb a half a second. The second he was out, my brain went into super mom mode. I was just like, where's my baby? And I'm like half asleep, more than half asleep. I am in tears, covered in sweat. You should have seen my hair. My hair was one unit. It was not even hair. It was just like a ball because of how much I had sweat and how much I had moved my hair around. And already throughout pregnancy, my hair was super tangly. So it was just a unit. My hair. It was awful. Um, and I'm looking around. I'm just like, where's baby? Baby? Baby, baby, give me my baby. I'm literally like, that was all that was on my mind. I just wanted my baby. Brent's crying. My mom's crying. The doctor is crying. And everyone's just like so happy. And they had Brent cut his umbilical cord, which he did. And, and then all of a sudden there was a big goopy baby on me. And I was so excited and so happy and so tired, and all the pain was just gone. All I cared about was I had a baby. I was crying like literally I had my son, and he was huge. He was 9 pounds, 3 ounces, and 22 inches long, and his head was ginormous. He is currently, I think, in the 99th percentile for size, and he jumped up to that within a week of being born. So, let's talk about postpartum. Postpartum sucks. No one talks about this. Recovery from giving birth sucks. While I was sitting there holding my baby and just over the moon, I had my son. My doctor says, "Oh, you had some minor tearing. We're going to stitch you up." What that means is my lady bits ripped open. They did not cut me open. I ripped myself. Okay, just I need you to understand that because it hurts like a son of a biscuit, okay? For 3 weeks, I have survived purely because they prescribed me ibuprofen 800 milligrams that I take every 8 hours. And for the first 2 weeks, I took those every 8 hours on the dot because sometimes at 7 hours it would start to wear off. They also prescribed me oxycodone, and I don't take that because narcotics scare the ever living shit out of me. So I don't touch the oxycodone, which my life probably would have been a lot better if I did touch the oxy, but I ain't touching that. Also, it can go into the breast milk. And even they were kind of hesitant about giving me oxycodone. So I was like, not taking it. I will live through the pain rather than have that go through my breast milk and possibly go into my baby and make him a drug addict before he's even 2 weeks old. So I don't think that's how that works, but you get my point. Um, so right. Um, I postpartum recovery, when you're in the hospital, it's very easy for you to just be like, oh yeah, everything's going great. That's because they've got you hopped up on so much drugs that you can't feel the pain. When I got home, I couldn't remember when I took my last ibuprofen, so I waited a lot longer than I needed to. My body was glass. I was cold. My body temperature dropped. I was just in excruciating pain again. Everything hurt. And the reason is because when you're pushing, you are using muscles that you are not used to using. And I did that for 3 hours, just contracting my entire body over and over and over again. Not just me, but also my contractions doing that to me. And so whenever my ibuprofen would start to wear off, my whole body would just be like this giant bag of misery. It was awful. Everything hurt. Everything. And what they don't tell you about breastfeeding is that in the beginning, It sucks. Um, Riley is a newborn baby. He has the instincts, but he doesn't yet understand how to use his body parts, particularly his head. So latching, he wasn't very good at it. And I had cracked and bleeding nipples. And that sucks on. Oop. Oh, that was a fart. Okay. He's waking up a little bit, so I might have to leave off here and hopefully remember where I left off. But basically it's just a very painful, terrible procedure learning how to be a mother and how your baby learning how to be a functional human being, which is definitely not his fault. He is a literally hasn't existed in this world for not even 4 weeks yet. At the time of this video, he is an amazing baby. Honestly, we are exceptionally lucky with Riley. He like as far as newborn babies go, he's really good. We get 4-hour runs of sleep at night. He will sleep for 2 periods of 4 hours. One of them may sometimes be 3 hours or 3.5 hours, but that's like unheard of. And he's been very like good about that almost every single night. 4 hours and then 3 to 4 hours, and then he'll wake up, and it's every 2 hours he'll eat. Sometimes every 30 minutes to an hour, which does really wear on me. But it is what it is, and I do it because he needs me, and this is the only way to keep him going. So when he was born, he was 9 pounds. During that first week of breastfeeding, your breasts don't yet make milk. They make something called colostrum, which is fine. Babies' stomachs are very, very small at that stage, so the colostrum is okay. Colostrum comes in very small amounts. So your baby during that first week will lose weight, and that is to be expected. Now, your pediatrician will look to make sure that the weight that they're losing is within safe parameters, but usually by week 2, your baby is back to gaining weight because your breasts have kicked in. Mine have, and they sometimes get engorged. And engorgement is when there is too much milk in your breasts, and that sucks. It hurts so bad. I will wake up in the morning. This is the only downside to him sleeping in 2 4-hour periods at night. He doesn't empty me, so I will wake up and my boobs hurt. Really, 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 really bad. They are so sensitive and angry and gross, and it is not glamorous, and it sucks. And I have to use shields sometimes because they just get so raw. And other things that they don't tell you about is blisters, which you can get, which block milk ducts. And you think, okay, I just won't have the baby use that. No, you can't do that, because if your baby doesn't breastfeed on one breast, that breast will stop producing milk. Or if you have a blocked milk duct and you don't have your baby feed on that, it will get super blocked, which can cause you to get super duper sick and potentially die. So you have to keep nursing, even if your breast hurts because you have a blocked milk duct and you have a blister. You have to keep nursing or pumping on that side. So let me just say I'm going through that. But also at the hospital, they tried nipple guards, which are basically like it's like putting a bottle nipple on your boob so that the baby can latch onto that, and that gives your breast a shield basically so that they're not nomming on you. When we first tried them, that was the second most excruciating pain I've ever felt, was those nipple guards. I don't know what it was. He didn't know how to latch yet. My breasts didn't know what latching was. It just hurt, and I hadn't tried it since. We tried it last night. He loves it. I'm in hog heaven because it doesn't hurt nearly as bad. It's an all around great time. I think everything's going to go a lot smoother from here on out, because for 1 week, he was latching like a champ. He was latching beautifully. Everything was going swell. And then week 3, he is going through some growth spurts. He's massive and he's forgotten how to latch. So that's been a time. Another thing that they don't really talk about in pregnancy is that you keep a lot of your belly weight after you give birth. And the reason for that is that you literally, like, you give birth, your belly doesn't just go and go back to normal. That doesn't happen. You keep that belly for quite some time. I think up to like 6 months it can take for your stomach to eventually flatten, and it won't really flatten, which is fine. My stomach is still quite big, and I'm not afraid to show because you know what? That's what this is all about. So I still obviously look like I have a belly, and I have some pretty impressive stretch marks, which I think I could show that on YouTube. Why not? What's it gonna what's it gonna cause? So here are my glorious stretch marks and the seam that happens when you give birth, when you get pregnant. So pregnancy and giving birth is not really a glamorous situation, but that's okay. I'm quite proud of my tiger stripes, my stretch marks. I think that that's pretty much a sign that I am a mother and I'm happy. But yeah, so this will take a while to go away, which I will say it in this video like everyone's gonna see it and no one's gonna ask me questions later like, "Oh, are you pregnant again?" But yeah, I'm probably gonna have this belly for quite some time, which is fine. It's natural. So, no big deal. As you can see, my face has shrunk already, my hands have shrunk, my feet are no longer swollen. Towards the end of my pregnancy, my feet were literally boats. I would post a picture, but I know what the internet is like. So no, you'll just have to take my word for this. My ankles disappeared. My feet are finally back to normal. Thank God. Oh my God. It was the worst. It was torture. I will post some pictures of my baby. I'm probably not going to show too much stuff about my baby on this channel, or I'm going to be pretty private about him in general. But in this video, I will share a lot of pictures that we've accumulated since his birth. But yeah, I'm probably not going to be too open about him and his life on the YouTube channel, just because I do know what the internet is like, and it freaks me out quite a bit to imagine him on the internet. One day I won't get a choice in that. He'll want to be a part of the internet, and he'll have to learn how to manage that because that's an important part of being alive. But ooh, boy, I wish I fingers crossed that he won't be into it. No social media. But yeah, so there we go. That's basically, oh yeah, I will say this also because, like I said, this is very in depth about postpartum. Um, God, using the bathroom after you give birth sucks. It really sucks. It's so painful. Peeing hurts. Like, I mean, I literally had stitches down there, and pooping is really, really hard. It took a long time for that first poop to happen because your bits are just angry and stretching them is painful. Oop, I have a baby waking up. Okay, I think this is a good place to leave it off. But there you go. There's my super in depth. Nobody wanted to hear any of the details of this process story about giving birth. And I will say I would do it again and again and again if it meant, just to have him in my life. This baby is my world. Oh, postpartum emotions. No, this is very important. My first week at postpartum, I was an emotional wreck. I cried over everything. Everything. Literally. I would look at him and cry. I would look at a picture of any baby and cry. I would sit down and cry about not being a good mother. I would sit down and cry about being so happy that I'm a mother. I would look at Brent and cry. It was just tears overload, and I still am not totally out of that. Like, we're still in that. Like, we were looking at some video and they showed a brief clip of a baby, and I started crying. So there's a lot of tears. No like angry emotions on my end, but some women do go through some very angry postpartum emotions. Me, thankfully, no. Just I cried a lot, but that's very par for the course for me through my life. So yeah, there you go. There's my story about giving birth. And like I said, I would do this again. I probably will do this again to have another baby, and it will probably birth will at least be better than this round because my body will know what to do. Probably. But yes, I am over the moon for him. I would die for that baby. If anything happened to him, I would literally die. Um, and I mean that. Like, I am definitely gonna be one of those moms, like my entire social media, my private social media accounts, for friends and family is just pictures of him. Um, and am, there are no words to describe the type of love that I have started to feel since he was born. And it is unfathomable. There literally are no words as a mother for when you look at your baby and you look at their face. It is so, you can't feel that for any other creature on this planet. I've never felt that for any other living being ever, period. Not myself, not my mother, not my husband, not family, not pets, no one. I look at that baby and there is something that just happens inside, some reaction that I will literally go through fire and brimstone for him. I will experience pain. I will breastfeed him when he needs it, even if I'm exhausted and he ate literally 30 minutes ago because he is crying and I love him and I want him to be healthy and to keep growing. And he is just an innocent baby and he looks at me and he sees not, he knows no betrayal. He knows no pain. He doesn't understand the idea of someone, letting you down. And to know that this innocent being, this exceptionally innocent being, is looking to me to keep them alive is unlike anything else on this planet. And I think he is starting to wake up and probably want food. So I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here, or this video here. And if you guys have any questions, like post in the comment section below. If I get enough questions, I might make another video and talk about the questions in that video. So if I don't answer right away, I might just be letting them stack. But yeah, ask anything. If it's, you know what, we'll wave the discomfort flag. If I think it's too weird of a question, I might say, oh, I'm not gonna answer this one. But feel free to ask it. I will say any fetish comments in the comment section are just gonna get deleted flat. I probably shouldn't even say it. I should just do it. I'm not gonna respond to them. So believe it or not, that is a thing. I'm all for not shaming most kinks. Some kinks should be shamed. Pregnancy kinks are one of them. No. Boo. It's gross. I don't want it. um, I'm partly kidding, but also I'm not. Oh, I'm getting text messages from my mom. She doesn't know how to send one text. She sends 20. So anyways, I will see you guys later. I will sporadically upload whenever I get a chance. I'm now well enough to go up the stairs. That's a thing. I'm now well enough to go up the stairs, so I might, while he's sleeping, try to record just for fun. No schedule. It's just literally living life and doing things when I can. But yeah, he will always come first. So videos are going to be hectic and sporadic and fun, but very sporadic. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you so much for being so understanding and always sticking through all of my shenanigans and my hiatuses and everything that goes on this channel. I genuinely appreciate all of you so much, and I'm very blessed to have a community like this, regardless of the world, what anybody else says. Like, this is the perfect channel for me. So I, again, thank you, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.